Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my podcast, Reflecting with Ron. I am your host, Ron Bagnier. This is episode 3. Tonight, I'll be joined by my good friend, Mike. Let us dive deep into some deep reflecting. We will reflect upon anything from accomplishments, challenges that were overcome, revisit memories of the past, life experiences, or anything that you are deliberating or pondering life about. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good, thank you. So what are we going to be reflecting on tonight?
Well, I was thinking one of the things I am known for by my friends is that I am a gamer. I'm now, just to let everyone know, I am not like a diehard gamer. I'm not one of those people who play like 6 hours a day and play like 20 different games. I am a person where I play a very select few games when I get the chance, but I am pretty knowledgeable about it. But I would like to talk more specifically about my mentality. Everyone out there can talk about, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z to be good at this game, which maybe in the future I could do something like that
Right.
if there's interest. But I would like to talk more or less about my mentality. And I've had a few people tell me that it was very unique and that they actually enjoyed playing with me as a result. Well, there are a lot of games out there, such as like chess, for example, can be a very competitive game.
Absolutely.
And
very strategical and very, you have to have like a game plan like 3 moves ahead and everything else like that.
Yes, you have to have like an idea of what to do, but sometimes when your opponent throws you off guard, or opponents, depending on what type of game you're playing, it can start to create what is known as tilt, where you start being able not to focus, you start making bad moves and stuff. And I'd like to talk about how I don't get tilted, at least very, very easily, and why I can actually do that.
That sounds very interesting. No, when you say tilt, is that a video game term you're using?
Generally it is. It can be used sometimes elsewhere, but generally it is used within gaming term when, like, for example, there's a game I like to play called League of Legends, where it's a 5 versus 5 game. And if you have a player on your team who's doing really bad, they sometimes start screaming towards everyone else, saying that it's everyone else's problem, meaning they're more or less on tilt. They can't focus on what it is they're doing right or wrong, and they also don't want to hear it from anyone else, when in actuality they should take a few steps back and say, okay, I'm not playing well right now, but what can I do to help the rest of everyone else succeed? Or if you're playing a game by yourself, if you recognize you're going on tilt, it can be difficult for you to win. But sometimes when you recognize you're reaching that point, it's nice to take a few steps back, take some deep breaths, and then say, okay, let me focus. What do I need to do to win here? Even though I'm in a bad situation, what can I do to win?
Recollect yourself and just calm down and just, strategize and just, take ownership for what you're doing and just plan ahead of time and to just execute your moves accordingly.
Yes, and there are times when you put yourself into a situation that you can't win, and that's perfectly fine. And the best way to do it is to just take what you can from that game and move on to the next one, not have it affect your next game, which can be difficult, especially if the game in which you're playing can all of a sudden you lose like 5 games in a row. It can be difficult to get off that losing mentality train.
Yeah, you start getting frustrated and you start making these careless mistakes that you typically don't, and then it just blows it up in your face, the whole strategy and everything else. So you mentioned that you played League of Legends. So is that a PC game? Is that a game that you can play on a console?
So it is a PC game. It's a free-to-play PC game. And the one thing with it is that I like is when you're first starting off, it's pretty easy to understand how it works. However, as you go further and further along, it adds a lot more complexities to actually how you win the game. The way how you win the game is destroy the opponent's base. Well, that's easier said than done. There's a lot of other things you need to do to get to that point. And sometimes when things start going bad for your team, you can start getting onto that tilt or feeling of hopelessness that you can't win. And I'd like to more or less talk about what do I do when I'm in those situations? Because obviously, you can't win every single game. I think everyone would start to get bored of a certain game if they just won constantly.
Now, do you only exclusively play PC games, or do you play, live action? Do you have a specific genre that you favor more?
I mean, I don't have a very specific game or consoles that game type, I should say, or consoles. I play all kinds of different ones. I do prefer, when it comes to console gaming, Nintendo-based products. Not to say I don't have a problem with Xbox or PlayStation 2. It's just I'm not as involved with those style of games. Now, as for types of games, I personally do like the more strategic style games because I am a very strategic person. That's the reason why I liked playing the games like League of Legends and StarCraft 2, or StarCraft as a whole, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I like about it is, with those games, if you want to be a pro level player, you do need to have outrageously good mechanics and you need to be smart with the game. But especially with League of Legends, you don't need to be a halfway decent player. You don't need to be the best mechanical player. By mechanics is mostly clicking very, very fast, or being able to control your character or your movements very well.
Like hand-eye coordination.
Yes, I'm not the best at that. I'm rather slow. However, what I do is I try to make every single movement I do use have a purpose. Rather than me just clicking right and left, it doesn't really, and not having real purpose. I try to be as smart and intelligent about it. And as a result, I was able to, in League of Legends, reach the top 25% or approximately or so of players in the world. Most players cannot reach Gold League or higher.
So that's a very prestigious honor to be a part of that elite club that's not of many.
Yes. Now, I haven't played the game recently in some time, so obviously I'm probably not at that level yet, but I could probably get myself back to that point. But in League of Legends, if you reach Gold League or higher, you get a special honor where you get a free skin, or basically way to change your character's look, that everyone knows if you play that means you're playing with a good player or a halfway decent player, because they didn't get there by being dumb or anything.
Right. So the skin is an identifier that you've moved up in the rankings, and like now you have more of a selection with your costume change or your outfit change,
yes,
as you will.
Yes. And what I mostly did, now I also did spend some time watching like videos to educate myself, like what or what not to do. Maybe later I could do another separate video, like what do I recommend to get yourself better at games. But what I mostly did was I focused on really myself within the game. Yes, it's a 5 versus 5 game. You have to worry about other teammates and the other opponents. But I focused solely on myself. And while I was playing, I was being my own personal coach, saying, I should have done this better, I should have done that better, especially if I died within a certain situation. Just FYI, when you play the game, you die and then you come back to life, and the timer for how long you're dead is
you like respawn.
Yeah, you respawn if the respawn timer is longer depending how long the game goes. But
which could be an advantage for the opposing team if you're not on the field doing your task or your job, that it's putting them at a disadvantage so the other team can infiltrate your base and ultimately win the game.
Yes, and the way how it is mostly in the early stages of the game, having better mechanics is a better thing. However, I succeed in the part what is called team fighting, but that's when everyone is all fighting all at once, and you have to be smart about where it is you're going and what it is you're doing. Because, for example, I play the role of being support. I forego giving up all power and ability to survive to help out other people. And I always am thinking, what is my job here? What do I need to be doing? And sometimes it can be difficult to do that because some people, especially if they start losing or start getting on this huge track of not winning a lot of games, they start to lose sight of what they need to do. And so I would use the fact that I always stayed calm and always tried to be focusing, what do I need to do next to succeed to help out my teammate? And teammates, I should say. Always try to keep myself relaxed. Know that, you know what? If I make a bunch of mistakes, I'll learn them. I'll try to never make those mistakes again. And I guess you could say that's kind of what we need to do with life as a whole. We always make mistakes, and we always try to not make them again if possible, because we know what the outcome is going to be.
And this can be applicable in certain situations pertaining to other video games that you may play, because I know, for instance, you play Mario Kart and you're very strategical with the item choice and how you execute them. And I know personally playing with you for many of times that it can be very frustrating that, you know the ins and outs of the game more so than I, because you've been playing them an exponential amount of time more than I have.
Yeah, I mean, with that, it's mostly playing it multiple times. Now, sometimes you guys see me troll around, basically not seeming like I'm taking the game seriously, when in truth I'm actually experimenting and seeing what can I actually get away with, because sometimes by doing that you find ways to cheat around the game rather than not cheat, I guess I should say things that are built within the game that can help you, but right. They don't seem very obvious to everyone else, especially if they're not used to playing it.
Yeah, you're like weeding out like what isn't your strength with certain players or characters that you're using, or certain like objects or vehicles or any, features that come along that accompany those characters. It's kind of like
testing your limits, seeing like what can I actually get away with. Now sometimes you put yourself in, when you do that, you put yourself in a big hole and you lose, but at least I look at it and I say, you know what, I experimented around, I can do these things, I can actually do these things, but other things I can say, nope, I can't do those ones at all.
Right. But yeah, it's just crazy that that it seems that gaming has been a big influence on your life, and it's just remarkable the stats that I researched and found that it's a multi-billion-dollar global industry, and that nearly 2/3 of the American homes and household members who play video games regularly. It's just the spectrum of platforms, from like arcade systems to home consoles to handheld consoles to even like your mobile devices that we play on a daily basis, like Pokemon Go, for instance. We used to like play it very religiously, and now as time goes on you start to like almost feel like what is the end game like with regards to these games.
Yes.
And what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I always have been a person where I have my select games that I really like to play, and I get very good at them. I'm not one of those people where I experiment with large numbers of games, but that is because the games I do play a lot are the ones I really love the most, and are the ones I'm willing to, I guess you could say, experiment with. So Pokemon Go, yes, I may have reached the max level a while ago, but
Congratulations to that, by the way. I know that's an achievement in and of itself. I myself personally reached that milestone in the game a couple months back, and as soon as I hit that threshold, I almost feel like the appreciation I had for the game going into it has kind of depleted gradually, and it's kind of a shame, because like I love playing with you guys and my other friends, and just before I met my significant other, Jen, I even like doing it on my own. Like sometimes in my free time I would go to the beach at night and just try to stack up with the Magikarps when it was a really challenging thing to try and get Magikarp candy.
Yes. I mean, for me, I always try to come up with, I guess you could say, my own goals post-game. And with that, I look at it and I say, okay, what Pokemon do I want to really experiment with, power up and stuff? Yes, the game could technically be over for me now, but then again, we also know that they may possibly add some things into the game that all of a sudden make it so, oh, by the way, that's not the end of the game. Let's make it
right. They keep you hooked on the rail.
They'll find a way to keep you hooked in some way. But for me, it's just because I have a love for playing that game and other specific games that I really like. And I, especially with the very competitive games, I always try to keep as, I guess you could say, as relaxed of a mind as possible. And I had a few cases where people actually were surprised by that. One example was when I used to play StarCraft 2. to be this guy I used to play with a good amount. He was far, far better than me. He was a master's level player, basically. If he really wanted to, he could have been a semi-pro if he wanted to. He did say, like, you know what? You have what is known as a Korean mentality. For anyone who doesn't know, especially in professional video game playing, or more specifically esports, Korea is well known for being the best place in the world. Now, part of the reason is they have great infrastructure, but the other reason is they have a lot of the great players have great mentalities where they go at the game and realize, you know what, I made a mistake. What did I make a mistake in this game? Let me go look at it. Oh, I made those mistakes. I better make sure I don't make them again. And this one guy is like, you know what, if you took this game very, very seriously, you would be possibly a pro player. And I said, why is that? Because you don't ever get tilted. You always look at what did you make wrong in the game, what did you do wrong in the game, and try to find a way to correct it rather than keep repeating it. I also had another time when I played the game League of Legends. I was playing with one of my friends. He invited me to this other group of friends that we were all playing together, and they told my friend that they liked playing with me, and the reasoning why was not because they did admit that I wasn't the strongest player that he had ever brought forward, but because I had such a good mentality, and that if they told me, don't do this because that may get you killed or whatnot, I don't ever make that mistake again. And I try to always come about that every single thing happens within games, or even in life, is a lesson worth teaching, and I try to always keep that in mind while I'm playing.
Well, that's a good mantra, and from the sound of it, it seems like some people actually make a career out of gaming. Did you yourself personally ever consider the thought or entertain it?
No, I feel like I guess I was always told or discouraged from ever going to that point. Also, the other thing is a lot of the games that to become professionals at, you have to basically play like 8 to plus hours a day. And obviously, I do not have that ability because I own a house, have a daughter, and it's very difficult to ever be able to do that. So a lot of times when I come across people who are much better than me, I'll never truly beat them, but I can generally always keep up with them. Like if I went against a pro level player, I may probably never win, but I'll definitely be able to keep up with them. I won't obviously get walked all over by them. Yeah, that's probably part of the reason why, though, I like playing strategical style games. Like if you watch like professional Pokemon or League of Legends, you don't have to have the most insane level of ability to click very fast to win. You just need to be very smart, kind of like playing like chess, sitting there trying to observe what can I do in X, Y, and Z, and what can the opponent do in X, Y, and Z conditions.
And I know that some players, they do this thing which is called Twitch, where they actually record themselves live streaming video games and do that on YouTube a lot. Did you ever do that in your time of playing games?
I did Twitch streaming for a very short bit of time, playing League of Legends, before I had my daughter Avery, but I have considered re-bringing it back up again, if I ever get some free time to play League of Legends. Generally, though, I don't like to play League unless I'm very awake, meaning I'm not tired. But obviously, when you have a very young child, it can be difficult to get at least a decent amount of sleep. But I have streamed before on Twitch.
Very nice. Well, this has been really great, and I appreciate you being on my podcast and educating some of the listeners, and I feel for future installments that you could shed some light on other things pertaining to gaming, and that I know that a lot of people that are listening, probably a good pool of them actually do gaming. So I'm sure if they have, any questions or suggestions that, they just comment or reach out to me personally or to you, would be greatly appreciated. And thank you for listening again. I am your host, Ron Bagnera, and this was my friend Mike. As always, let us make a connection after a deep reflection. Thank you and have a great day.